Hey everyone, welcome to Perpetuality. Today we have another Seiko. Yes, that's right, I've been covering them a lot. That's only because they've been knocking it out of the park lately. This is the new cocktail time for 2020, the SRPE45J1. Now, we'll do a full review, and I'll cover a little bit of the history, but if you don't want to hear the history, skip a few minutes ahead to the actual review. Let's get to it. The Cocktail Time has always been Seiko's entry-level dress watch within the Presage line of watches, and that has definitely still remained that way even when the original Cocktail Time was released back in 2010. And when that watch was released in North America for the first time, it was called the SRPE45. It had a brilliant sunray dial with these straight, or rather striations, that came up from the center to the edge of the dial. It had diamond angular indices, very sharp dolphin hands, and also a blue running seconds hand. It also had the premium movement at the time, which was the caliber 6R15. Now, Seiko would go on to downgrade this watch, giving it the caliber 4R35 as a means to keep the price point low and kind of make it, or rather retain it, its status as the entry-level dress watch. Now, many were upset at this change, and I can understand why. This was an excellent watch back in the day. It had 40.5mm in diameter case size and 11.8mm in depth in the mid case. Now, of course, when we look at the inspiration of the Cocktail Time, it is actually based on a world-famous bartender, Ishigaki Shinobu, and his drinks were known for its wonderful color and composition and taste. Of course, Seiko took inspiration from these wonderful cocktail drinks in their color and the way that they were reflecting light to be the inspiration for their dress watches, which would be the Cocktail Time that we see today. And as you can see, there's a variety of different dial variations and colors that mimic these drinks. And it is quite interesting to observe, to say the least, as these dials are quite eye-catching. Now, of course, the price point of what these watches sit at is of course designed to be entry level, and it has not changed since then. This watch is quite something else. Now, Seiko has chosen to downsize the case from 40.5mm to now a much more wearable 38.5mm in diameter. The lug-to-lug length is 45.4mm and the depth is about 11.8mm, the same as last year's Cocktail Time. I find that this watch will wear on most wrists quite well. Now, the overall size of this watch is one of the big benefits, being that you get 20mm lug width as well. And as you can see here, I've paired this watch with a Barton NATO strap. This is a leather NATO strap. I'll talk about why I've done this a little bit later on in the video. But first, let's get the elephant out of the room. This is the most incredible dial I've seen on the Cocktail Time in recent memory. You're getting an engine-turned guilloche dial with gold-applied indices, the date framed in a gold frame with a black date wheel, and sharp dolphin hands with a diamond-shaped counterbalance on the seconds hand. On a macro level, the finishing is just superb. The numerals are razor sharp, and as you can see, that Seiko logo applied in gilt is sharp as ever. The printing is done quite well too. Presage and automatic are sharp with no overspillage of the actual printing. I find that overall the execution of the dial is 10 out of 10, flawless, nearly the most beautiful dial I have seen from Seiko. Now, the hand stack, as you can see here, is quite tight, and there are no markings or tool markings or scratches that you would see on the hands, especially at this price point of 595 Canadian dollars. I'm very impressed. Let's talk about the case and the overall thickness. 11.8mm in depth, meaning that this is quite a thin watch, and as it should be. This is a dress watch, of course. Seiko's entry-level dress piece to kind of bring in customers to the fancy dials that is the Presage Cocktail Time. Now, there is no screw-down crown to accompany this watch. It is good for about 5 bar, I believe that's about 50 meters. If I'm wrong, I'll correct myself here. The crown is signed with the Seiko S logo. Overall, the case has high polished finishing There is not a single brushed surface here. If you're not a fan of that, if you think this is going to be a fingerprint magnet, well, I have some news for you. It will be, because it's mostly high polished. I don't have a problem with it, however. I feel it's a very contemporary case design. The strap, however, is the elephant in the room as well, because it is a bit of a letdown. This brown olive green colored strap with the quick release pins there does taper down from a 20mm, I believe, down to a 16, it looks like. However, it just feels very cardboard, almost rigid and uncomfortable. It doesn't really add up to the quality of the watch. The deployment buckle included here is a little bit of a letdown because it's very thin, and overall just not a very inspiring strap. There is a case back to accompany the 4R35 movement that's beating away here, and the movement does have its signature gold rotor that harkens back to the original 4R movements early on. Now, this movement beats at 21,600 vibrations per hour, is good for about 41-hour power reserve, and accuracy is as good as about 5 to 8 seconds per day as measured on the time graph for here. Now, this is kind of a issue for me because Seiko previously had the cocktail time with the 6R15, but they downgraded it here for the 4R35 movement. Now, what are really some of my thoughts on this watch? Great dial, great size, beautiful execution, but please get it on a different strap other than that really disappointing olive green strap that it comes with. This leather Bartender strap seems to fit the bill. I love the contrast of the brown versus the green. Just a quick point, this watch does in fact feature a Hardlex crystal. Bit of a letdown, I would have preferred to see a sapphire crystal, but it makes sense at this price point. The wearability of this watch is quite good. I have a wrist about 6¼ inch in diameter, and this 38.5mm case size with 45.4mm lug to lug is quite a good size of a watch on my wrist. You'll see that it fits within the diameter of my wrist, no problem, but if you have wrists as small as 5.5 inches, you'll be able to wear this watch no problem. If you have wrists as large as 7 inches, it might be a bit of a stretch for you. However, I do think that Seiko did hit it out of the park with the overall wearability of this watch. It is quite a special dress watch. Now, talking about where it places itself in the market, at 595 Canadian dollars, it sits within the entry-level price point of a dress watch, automatic of course, and the only other competitors I can think of are the other Presage watches within its lineup, and potentially the Tissot Heritage, Viso date actually. You can sometimes find those on sale, and that would be a good pickup too. Now on that note guys, thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video today, please like the video, and if you want to see more content from me, please consider subscribing. Click on that notification bell to see new content from me, and I will catch you in the next one.